Welcome to Conlangery, the podcast about constructed languages and the people who create them. I'm George Corley, and with me in very dry Arizona is someone you may be familiar with, Agma Schwa, also known as Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da.
Beautiful rendition right there. I love it.
All right. And we are going to talk about conlanging and particularly what appears to be your specialty is the cursed conlangs. Before we get into that stuff, I want to know a little bit more about you. I want to know, like, how did you get into conlanging and how did you get into conlanging on YouTube?
Gotcha. Well, in terms of conlanging in general, I've been kind of doing it for a long time. Like, for context, I'm 24 years old, and when I was little, Bionicle was like a huge thing, and and I don't know how much you know about Bionicle, but in Bionicle, yeah, there's like it's a, I wouldn't call it a fully fledged conlang, but there's a quasi conlang mixed in to Bionicle, mixed into the lore and expressed in certain ways in the video games and books and stuff. It's the Matoran language, and that was kind of like my first introduction to like the idea that language could be used as a part of artistic expression, I guess.
Yes.
So that was kind of the first thing. Second thing was probably Watership Down, a novel about rabbits and going through some harrowing experiences on a journey to find a new home after like farmers destroy their original home. And there's an entire fully fledged rabbit language called Lepine, I think, and that I read in about 8th grade, and that was really the kicking off point where I was like, okay, I want to start making these.
Well, that's really cool. I would not. We had a discussion about this in a Conlanger Discord, Conlanger and Linguist Discord, and it's like I would not hold up Bionicle as a good example for any means because it seems like they kind of stole quite a lot of just Polynesian words and just used them.
Exactly. At the time, I didn't know that. When I was just like an obsessed like 6-year-old, you know, I had no idea anything about that, right? Of course, I didn't learn like the true makeup and kind of just, you know, cheap and kind of stealing nature of the Matoran language until much later on. But I can't get over the fact that it still was influential to me when I was little at realizing that language could be part of a creative process. You know, it still was a thing that affected my mind, despite the truth about it as I got older.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't meaning to put you down or anything. I was I know. Pointing that out as it was top of mind. But well, so there seems to be some of that inspiration of like using animals because you have conlangs for a future world after humans are extinct where dogs have become like humanoid and sapient and have their own languages. Can you talk a little bit about how that world comes about and some of the languages from that?
Yes. So that world is currently the subject of a comic that I am making. The first episode of it is published on my website, na.org. The comic is called Dog Days, or Jojawa Joror in AutoJune, which is one of the languages spoken by these dogs. And that whole world has been quite a fixation in my life for more than like a decade at this point, for more than like a decade and a half. that began around the same time as I was obsessed with Bionicles when I was like 6 or 7 years old. Essentially, my friends and I, we would get together in my parents' yard, like we were little kids, and we got a hose, and there's a big empty area of dirt that my parents reluctantly accepted to letting us turn into a country, basically a civilization, where we put down the hose and we created the lakes, the rivers, etc. And then we would use like little dog bowls and other like sandcastle things to take the dirt, which is like hard Arizona kind of clay, so it would stay for a really long time. And we would make the buildings and construct dams on like the various rivers and create reservoirs and mountain ranges and everything. And we would meet up like all the time throughout my childhood, just like acting out like the history of this civilization. And they were inhabited by dogs inspired by our actual dogs in real life. And a lot of like the place names and language names are very very corrupted derivations of the names of various dogs in our lives throughout our childhoods. So yeah, over the years that eventually evolved into the conlanging, but a whole lot of world building happened before the language part got involved in that. It is a long
Yeah.
time in the making.
Yeah, I am looking at the comic right now, and there's quite a lot of the constructed writing in the comic. Uh,
Hmm.
all the dialogue is rendered in English, but yeah,
Well,
that's
and not
interesting.
if you click the button that switches it into
Oh,
AutoJune.
you can
There's a
read it
little
in
button on the
AutoJune.
side.
Okay.
Yep, there's a
Oh,
button. You
I
toggle
see.
the button, you can read the comic entirely in AutoJune, which is actually the original intended language of it. So you can use the AutoJune documentation and the various YouTube shorts that I've created to learn the basics of the language. Use the dictionary on the website, and if you really, really wanted to go through that effort, you could use my comic as a learning tool for for learning AutoJune.
Do you have people like learning it? Like, have you
There,
had people ask questions and things indicating
I
that they
have.
are like learning?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't think anyone is any more fluent in it than I am, which is, not to an extreme degree. But I've definitely gotten on my Discord server and over email and in my YouTube comments, people asking me some pretty in depth grammatical questions about
Mm-hmm.
the inner workings of AutoJune, some of which came from the comic, others came from various examples from the grammar book that I have, which is a whole other story. That was my thesis project at Arizona State University, was creating a full like over 150-page grammar book of the AutoJune language, which some people have bought. It's on Amazon. Some people have bought it at this point and are using that also as a more in-depth like tool to learn AutoJune. So I've gotten a lot of questions about it.
Yeah, definitely. That's great to see people like doing your thing. Let's talk a little bit about YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So you I watched through quite a few of your videos, and you
Mm-hmm.
have um, the typical sort of uh, conlang showcases and things with your own twist on things. How did you get started with YouTube and conlanging? How did you start sharing that?
Hmm. Well, how did I start sharing it? I think how it really began was with my honors thesis project back in university. I had already arranged basically this project where I'd be fleshing out AutoJune and making as much detail in cultural context, etc., put into it as I could in time for my big presentation on it, my thesis defense. And along the way, I was already a fan of, other channels like Jan Miseli and Bibleridian, who you interviewed a while back.
Hmm.
And so I already knew that there was like some semblance of a conlang community. I didn't realize the extent to which it existed, but I
Yeah.
figured, like, why not, while I'm doing this and working on it and like basically submitting progress reports every week, why don't I also just record videos of myself talking about the things that I've been focusing on in the development of AutoJune over the course of that week or so. And so in like November 2019, I began every single Tuesday for over 13 months straight posting a video talking about the latest developments in AutoJune, and some of them I would post onto Reddit on r/conlangs to, some reception. Sometimes it would get ignored, sometimes it would get focused on, but I got a few subscribers out of that. And then it started kicking off whenever I started posting like memes, like scenes, popular scenes from TV shows translated. Like I would dub it in AutoJune, like steamed hams and like the "My name is Yoshikage Kira" scene from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, stuff like that. Those are my first videos that actually got me some decent subscribers, because they were memes and I was just dubbing the memes in my language, and it kind of just went from there.
And what I really want to talk about is you have a particular thing outside. I I don't know. I don't know to what extent you might do some of this within your world building, because I think one of your languages is pretty odd in there.
Just one.
AutoJune not so much, but you have an affinity for what you call a cursed conlang. Can you explain to the listeners? Um, you know, a lot of them probably have seen your channel. Some people watching this may not have. What is a cursed conlang?
So, a cursed conlang, and I've had to kind of tailor this definition over time because of all of like the whole phenomenon that's kind of developed around it. A cursed conlang is a language that is intentionally created for the sake of causing uh, discomfort or confusion, surprise, at least laughter, but it should be purposefully done in a way that is like, it is unnatural or just odd in such a way that it strikes a nerve. It makes you either cringe or laugh or just otherwise send chills down your spine. It's a messed up language made messed up on purpose for the sake of triggering those emotional responses.
Yeah, yeah, and just like some examples that you have is like you have created a language that is just like and are various rhotics for pirates
Yep, that's Hyper
with
Pirate.
yes, hyper pirate.
Yep.
You have just like what other ones are there? I don't have it on the top of my head.
My personal favorite in terms of disturbingness is probably gum smack, which is the language communicated exclusively by chewing gum with different mouth shapes, basically just different chews and squelches. Like anyone with with what is it called, misophonia, like the aversion to the aversion to the sound of chewing. It was designed specifically with that in mind. Just the most misophonic language you could possibly have. Just pain. It was super fun to make. The writing system is a logography of different combinations of food emojis. It's It was painful. They're all painful. But that one is a pretty classic example. There's been a few.
So, what is like the appealing part for you about the curse conlangs? It's definitely a departure from what conlangers, like most people in the community, are doing, because a lot of people focus on doing naturalistic conlangs, uh, either within a con world or not, and it's not people do from time to time do like these little experimental things, but you seem to be like generating quite a few of them.
Well, so I'd say I've made what I think like five, like made or partially made in collaboration with my friend Eternal, um, five cursed languages so
Mm-hmm.
far, and the rest have been other people making them and submitting them for my contest. But I think the thing that draws me to it is just the sense that it's breaking the rules on purpose to have fun, like I love making naturalistic languages and I love linguistics in general, and there's just something that me and a lot of other people, especially people in my general like age range, just find it hilarious to purposefully just extend one or two aspects of linguistics to and beyond like their logical extremes and just running with it as like the purposeful goal of the project. I kind of also have justified it as being like, hey, if you know how to make something cursed, you'll probably be better when you're trying to make something naturalistic later on, because you'll know you might have a better idea of what things are cursed in quotation marks, and what things are more grounded in the realm of possibility. So I see it both as, improving the skills of a conlanger in general, and just like really embracing that you're part of like this community where you know that the thing that you're doing is going to make other people cringe or laugh really hard because you're both so knowledgeable in this particularly niche subject. It's created a lot of unity in the community, around in my like Discord server, my comments, everyone who's submitted their own curse conlangs. It's been super fun.
Yeah. Um, one thing, one of my favorite things to watch when you're doing these curse conlangs is the ones that are phonologically very out there. You just
Hmm.
struggling to actually speak it, because like in the hyperpirate video you had several lines that you translated into hyperpirate, and just you tried to get that out with all of
Suffering.
the
Just pure suffering. It's
though but I mean, although I will say a lot of them seem to be like phonologically very divergent, but like, are there somewhere you went more with like doing like very weird morphosyntax or anything?
yeah, I mean, well, Hyperpirate was just was kind of intended, like the main joke of Hyperpirate was the phonology. Same thing with Gumsmack, but
Mm.
especially starting with Gumsmack and then moving on to Hyperformal and Ultra French. The main kind of focus was like, sure, the phonology is whack, the phonotactics are messed up beyond recognition, but like the grammar started getting more and more complex as well. And a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
reason behind that was because behind the scenes, while Eternal and I were coming up with ideas and developing things for these languages, he, after seeing my experience in the Hyperpirate video wanted me to suffer for as long as possible and created so many different complex grammatical constructions and things just to make the dialogue that I had to read longer and longer over time. Again, just to cause me more pain. And I just went along with it. I was like, you know what? Yes, this is meant to be a Curse Conlang showcase. If I have to sacrifice a certain part of my speaking organs for that, then so be it. And so there's some wacky things in Gumsmack and in Hyperformal, and especially the grammar of Ultra French. Like, I don't know if you watched it. The video is just titled "What Happened to French," and I treat it as if French is like this long gone language that nobody talks about anymore. But I'm reluctantly going to talk about this language that is spoken today that everyone knows about, Ultra French. But it's like French, but evolved over the course of a few hundred years to just be the most brutal thing grammatically possible, and also extending like a couple of like the general, like, I don't know, stereotypes, conceptions of the French language and its claws and its uvular sounds, and just taking that to an extreme as well. But really the focus is the grammar getting insanely complicated in the next 500 years of French, post-French history.
I have to ask, does the name Ultra French come from the Bad Linguistics subreddit?
Yes. Yes, it does. I figure other people have done it before, but I after naming a language hyper pirate and then having a counterpart to it being hyper formal, and we knew that there was a meme, in the linguistics
Yeah.
and conlanging community, the ultra French meme. And just because
Yeah.
it had the word ultra in the front, we were like, okay, we have to do our take on ultra French, just to fit in with the theming.
Yeah.
It
I
was it
used
was
to
good.
be very active on that, on Bad Linguistics, but I don't know if it like even is doing anything anymore because I'm not like on Reddit much anymore.
Yeah,
But
neither am I. I'm not entirely sure.
yeah, but yeah, that's super cool. Now let's talk about though. It's not just you. It's you have this contest going that you've done. You've done like two of them now.
Yes, this is the second
The
one. It is
yeah.
still technically ongoing. We have judged almost all of the conlangs so far, and by we I mean myself, my friend Eternal, and a couple other linguistics YouTubers have jumped in on the are basically our watch party of the various submissions, and yeah, well, we're almost done with that right now, and that video, the second Curse Conlang Circus, will probably be coming out sometime in December. It better be before Christmas, because last year I ended up video editing until like Christmas Eve, and I refuse to do that again. But um, but sometime, hopefully early December, hopefully that the Curse Conlang Circus 2 will be released to the world, and it's an amazing
Well,
experience. It just takes a long time to go through
yeah.
all of them.
It
It's
that
crazy.
that means that it may be coming out before it may be already out by the time this episode is out, by the way. So that's
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, because I'm recording ahead a little bit.
Yes.
Um
For my sake, I hope that it is released by the time this podcast episode comes out.
yes.
Oh god.
Editing takes time. Even the minimal sort of editing that I do for the podcast takes a lot of time, and I couldn't imagine like taking other people's videos and downloading them off of YouTube and cutting them up and all of that stuff
Yeah.
to do this kind of thing.
It's a lot.
But
It's 30 hours of raw footage this time. Like it
30
I got
hours of footage. How
yeah,
many
I
submissions?
120-ish around 120. Last year it was 37, and the video ended up being 6 hours long. And this year it is 120, and there was 30 hours of raw footage. So we'll see. It might be the longest conlang related video ever posted to YouTube, or I might have to split it in two.
Yeah, you probably will have to split it. I mean,
Well,
YouTube has a 10-hour limit, so
so the limit is technically it's 12 hours now if you have any
uh
copyrighted content in it. But if it doesn't have any copyrighted content detected in it, then technically it can go on longer than 24 hours. That at least that's how it was as of about a month ago. So we'll
oh.
see. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh, well, they always change their rules around. But
They sure
I
do.
mean, what is the process for judging that? Like, how for next year? Like, what do you look for, and like, how do people participate in that?
So first on like the participation this year, the requirement was to basically post a video, or create a video, and either have it posted on YouTube publicly, have it posted privately and sent just to me, or to literally email me a video file,
Hmm.
basically doing the general rundown of whatever you think is important to showcase in this cursed conlang. And the main requirement is for there to be a performed, I say performed because some of them aren't spoken, a performed translation of a certain text. Last year it was some copy pasta that people have been spreading around, on my channel. Someone like roasted me once, and then it turned into a copy pasta on the Discord server, and I made that the translation. And then this year it is the opening lines to the B movie. So like, according to all known laws of aviation, there's no way a bee should be able to fly. Like the first few lines of the B movie is this year's required script, and next year it will be something different. And so people posted their videos to YouTube and emailed me or messaged me on Discord, with the links to their submission, and that's how I got all 120 of them. And some of them have done really well. Like the people who posted them publicly, some of them have gotten like hundreds of thousands of views. Like it's pretty impressive. I wanted to
Oh, really?
inspire as many people as possible to try and create their own YouTube channel because I figure it couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely a positive thing. The whole thing of a cursed conlang circus is definitely, it has me thinking of ideas a little bit, but I don't know if I would necessarily realize that. So you announce this in the summer every
Yeah.
year, and then however long it takes to judge them, it is how long it takes. But like the deadline is in like September.
Yeah, yeah. I had it a little
Yeah,
later last year than I did this year. I said it earlier this year to decrease the chances of me having to video edit close to Christmas. um, but yeah, I announced this one, I think like July 15th or something, and the deadline was
yeah.
September 15th. And I gave people a little bit of leeway if they like messaged me and said like, hey, it's going to be a little late. I gave like a 2 week kind of grace period after that for anyone who told me they were submitting it late. And a couple's even further after that. But it was fun. It's really fun. So many of them, so many submissions, so many crazy ideas. Like some of the most creative stuff I've ever seen. It's like it's really impressive. Angles of language I never would have thought of.
Do you have like particular favorites? I mean, obviously you judge the winners, but also like particular favorites among last year or this year of moments or anything?
Well, I don't know if I should reveal any of this year's yet because
Okay.
the process is still underway, and who knows who, in this last session we could get like all the winners in one big batch. Who knows? But from last year's, there were some pretty wild ones. There was there was Seraphim, which was created by Babalingua. He's another
I saw that one.
Conlang YouTuber. Yeah, it says Seraphim. That video is huge. It's got like 200,000 views. He and I went to the same school. We've hung out in person a lot. He made that. He released that and blew like everyone's minds. That one was insane. Also, there's Snapdragon Rose, which is a language performed by creating different bouquets of different flowers. That's an
Mm-hmm.
amazing one. There was one that was called the Breath Lang, or well, it was called a series of different H's and like with different diacritics and stuff on it, and it was a language performed exclusively by breathing at various levels of heaviness and glottal versus pharyngealization, etc. That one was insane. And I guess another one, maybe like maybe Robin Hood. That one was awesome. It's a language that is communicated exclusively by looking at a map of like crimes committed in Oklahoma City, and like it's like supposed to be for criminals to talk to each other from like different locations, and like the different like things stolen from homes or whatever, or like different graffiti left on walls are like different phonemes, and like the areas of the city where it's committed is like freaking the like the grammatical alignment and stuff. It's insane. I had to put a disclaimer in the beginning of the video saying like don't do illegal things, this is just for entertainment, but it was hilarious.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So I don't
Good
know.
times.
Yeah, that's really looking at a map of crimes in Oklahoma City. I'm gonna have to find that one and watch that one. That sounds a little bit crazy.
It
Well,
is. It is.
what about like what are your plans for like the future of your channel and the Curse Conlangs or Circus? You think you're gonna continue doing this for some time?
I would like to, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, things have been going pretty great so far. In terms of the circus itself, I'm gonna have to change something about how the circus works because, the first one, 37 submissions, that was manageable. I had like I think around 4 or 5 thousand subscribers when I announced that one. 5,000 subscribers, 37 submissions, right? And so I figured this year, like when I announced this year's, I had 8,000 subscribers. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll get 60 this year by proportion. But then, uh, you know, people started posting theirs, and then I had like a subscriber boost and took me up to like 10,000 and beyond. And then I had 120 submissions and 30 hours of footage, and it was insane. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely planning on doing a circus next year, but I have to find some kind of way to make it physically possible for me to do it with even more subscribers than I currently have. I gotta plan ahead for that. So maybe a time limit on the submissions or just some other way of controlling what ends up going into an enormous compilation video afterwards to, to showcase all of them. So there's
It
that.
sounds like you might need to have some other people involved to like filter things for you.
Maybe like I don't even know what that would look like. I'm gonna have to figure
Yeah,
that
yeah.
out because I definitely want to do it. And people are already telling me like, oh yeah, I'm already working on my submission for next year's, and I'm like, okay, awesome, but just don't start working on the video yet. Wait until I figure out the logistics of this before you start going into your like the production value and everything. But yeah, no, so that's going to have to be slightly different in the future to accommodate for the influx of people that I've gotten, and any hypothetical influx of people that could happen within the next year. um it's just something I've got to do for my sanity and for the sanity of everyone else involved in the judging.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my, the idea of going through 30 hours of video
Yeah.
and judging things and then clipping out all of the things that you need. You do have, you have to have clips from their videos, right? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
going to be
It's a lot.
that's going to be a giant project.
It
Um,
sure is. It sure is. Yeah. For the channel in general, though, I'm definitely going to be continuing. I've been doing like a video every 3 weeks lately. That's kind of been how things have been ending up. I'd
mhm.
like it to I'd like it to go back to every 2 weeks, and maybe I'll be able to do that if I get better at time management in my personal life. But the cool season here in Arizona, there's the hot season and the cool season. When the cool season comes, I do landscaping stuff in real
Mhm.
life. And so the cool season's like the busy season when everyone wants their plants planted and fertilized and for dead things to be
Mhm.
removed, etc. So it like makes time constraints like pretty challenging to make time for things in the evenings
Yeah.
sometimes. But I plan on releasing a bunch of other videos. I've got another Conlang showcase taking place in the Dog Days world. Pretty important one for the comic. I needed to make this language fully developed for the future of the comic because it's going to be appearing in the comic.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, exactly. So I needed to get this one pretty developed in time for the release of those particular pages. And then several other things, wacky linguistic experiments. A lot more of my videos lately, like between conlang showcases, have been about taking just like one element of linguistics and just stretching it to an extreme and breaking it, doing something cursed again in quotation marks, but not making an entire cursed conlang out of it, but just like exploring like thought experiments behind certain particular elements of language and just going down a rabbit hole in one direction and seeing where it goes.
Ah, so you
Yeah.
you see those as like separate things. I do
Kind
remember,
of.
yeah, I do remember seeing one video of yours trying to find like a minimal phoneme inventory, or
Mhm.
maybe not like the actual theoretical minimum, but like something that you could reasonably get a good number of roots out of, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and
Yeah, that was one of them. I did two videos on Deixis or Deixis, however you want to pronounce it.
mhm.
And just like exploring like linguistic conceptions of relation and context. So I did two videos on that, which were super fun to make. Then I did the minimum phonemes required for a language to be sorta realistic, is what that video was titled. And then my most recent experimental, like thought experiment angle one was called the heterography, how to destroy the alphabet, which was all about taking like written symbols and trying to find a breaking point where every letter in the alphabet can be confused with at least one other letter on purpose. And
Yeah, I saw that. That was fun. That was
yeah,
funny.
it was a good time.
You
So I
just like at the end of it, it does not look like the Roman alphabet anymore. It's just like
exactly.
it's very strange.
Exactly. But the weird part is that when the text is when you're writing English words with it, a lot of the time you can still, your brain still like puts a lot of it together and can read some of it. It was only when I switched the language to a language that I didn't know and started like trying to read things in it when I finally lost it, because of like the context of like where English letters go was gone, and suddenly I didn't have that kind of crutch anymore to tell which of those letters was actually the correct one and which one was the fake one.
It
And
reminds me actually of something that was supposed to be readable, and I tried to find it. I can't remember the name of it, but there was like an alphabet made, I think it was made for display on 7 segment displays, but it's not you can do the alphabet on 7 segment displays like with recognizable shapes, but they like somebody like did like minimalistic shapes for the
oh, I
alphabet.
know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'll
kind
have
of
to
like that, but the
find that
opposite.
so I can. Yeah, I'll have to find that so I can link to that, so people know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it seems like you do have a theme of just wanting to, you said break things, but like push things a little bit to extremes. Do do any of the languages in your con world have things like that? Maybe not as extreme, but you're pushing things maybe a little beyond naturalistic.
Probably to a certain extent. Like I try to keep the languages in the in the future dog world a bit more grounded. The biggest stretch is honestly that the dogs have mouths pretty similar to human mouths, but we're not talking about that. They're cartoons, okay? um, but I mean, I do try and put tangs of weirdness into each one, more in a way to keep them more memorable, both to me and to the audience. Like, so when I'm creating, you know, characters that may be from like from one civilization or another one, you know, I'll know like what naming conventions they may have used, or you know, the different place names that should be involved, or just different like challenges that they may have in translating different things between the languages. A lot of these, a lot of the languages and geographical features and things, I have them documented as in a lot of the time as an anglicization of a AutoJuneization of the original words in the native languages. So there's a lot of the time there's two layers of separation between the endonyms and the double exonyms that I use to describe them in my English documentation of the languages, and like the maps and characters, etc. And that's a lot of the time how I mask the names of the dogs from my real life childhood. Like my dog was Roxy, and and the main city, the largest city in the Fuano Peninsula is Reuchun, and that is derived from Roxy. There's also Prince, which is the Prince language, which is named after a dog named Prince.
Mhm.
The one I've got coming out, which will probably be released by the time this podcast episode comes out, is called in English I call it Alkin, and that is an anglicization of the AutoJune word Alkunk, which is a derivation of an ancient word used to describe the region that we would know as Alaska, which in the year like 1000 AR was pronounced something like Huachkalem, and the Huach becomes the Auch, and it goes from there. So there's all kinds of things that I do to try to incorporate them in with each other, and I try to make them stand out enough that an AutoJune speaker would have to bend over backwards to create their exonym for things, and so on. But yeah, there's a lot that I do there.
The whole idea that you are anglicizing something that was already like altered to this other language, this primary language that we're seeing the world through, is really fascinating to me, because I don't think a lot of conlangers like do that level of it. I think a lot of us, some people some people will just use the native names all the time, and some people will do like an anglicized form, but it's not as common to have that extra layer. I think that's really fascinating. Um, so you're still, as we're recording this, you're still working on judging and compiling and getting the video ready for this cursed conlang relay, and hopefully already planning for the next one to make sure that it doesn't like wreck you.
Exactly. That's the hope.
Yeah. Um, and like your channel is doing great. You've broken 10,000.
Yep.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's that's an achievement that I hope to reach someday.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to reach it. It was I'm glad that it happened. I was like, I kind of considered 10,000 to be around the max that a channel focused pretty much exclusively on conlanging could reach. And I mean, I guess I've made a couple videos that are more like linguistic thought experiments, so that might have contributed to it. So you could
Yeah.
say that I'm not entirely conlanging anymore, though I do still interpret all those videos from like a creative project around language. You know, like you're doing things to language for the sake of cool thought experiments and interesting results. And I don't know, it's all under the same umbrella genre to me. Yeah, I'm glad that it happened. I'm at like 12.7K right now, so
Mm-hmm.
but you know that who knows uh, what I'll be by the time I announce the next Curse Conlang circus. And
Oh
yeah,
my.
again, to anyone listening to this who's already working on your next one, it, awesome. Don't make the video yet. Wait until I know how to handle this, because I don't know how to handle it yet.
Have to just like set a time limit, like, make the video 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, honestly, it might have to be at that point. We'll see.
But
We'll see.
well, it's been great having you on. Before we leave, do you have any final thoughts you want to share with my audience or anybody out there listening?
Yeah. I mean, conlanging is it's the conlang community that's like kind of arisen on the internet over the past several years has been insane and awesome. I feel like it's quite different from the overall vibe that like the conlangers of generations prior to YouTube, and like the ubiquity of YouTube and Reddit and Tumblr and other social media platforms experienced, and that is yielding wacky things like cursed conlangs, the things that I do in my videos. And I think it's like a super awesome time. I do a survey once a year called the Conlanger Census, where I just have people share this little Google form asking about like just general like demographic and conlanging habit information that that shares around all the various conlang community sections that see it. And according to last year's, the average age of conlangers from everyone who found that survey was like 18. The 37% of them were 16 to 19 years old, and like the vast majority of them were under the age of 30. Like probably 80 to 90% of them were under the age of 30. And it's just it's super cool to see the conlanging community grow. It's kind of expanding every year. More people are basically learning how to do things to language for the sake of the art form that it can be, and I think that's super awesome. And the Cursed Conlang Circus is just one part of it, and I would like to inspire anybody else who wants to, become a conlang related YouTuber to definitely do it. It's, it can't hurt, and all you're doing is advancing an art form that is generally unappreciated by society. I think I think the more people who know that it's a thing, the better for all of us.
Yeah. Well, hopefully people will come to appreciate it more.
Exactly.
And you are one of the people who is trying to make that happen. I am also, fascinated by the what's growing on YouTube right now, which is, why I am now doing video podcasts as well, and doing streaming, just because it seems like this is a place to be for conlanging now. And like, when I talked to David and Jesse on like my first experimental video conlangery, they were saying like we need to have a bridge between the old community and the new community,
Mm-hmm.
because like we need to have all this interaction. And as all of these people are coming in, some of us, I don't know, I'm not nearly the oldest. I'm not that old, but I'm a little bit of the older crowd. Look, you got you no you've got Jim Henry, and you've got what you've got some people up in their 60s around. It's not,
Yeah.
but but I guess to a lot of the people on YouTube, I'm like a bit of the older crowd, because I also look at my data and I see the biggest thing is 18 to 24, and I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 36. These people think I'm old. but it's really great to have you on and hear like your perspective, and it's really cool to see like you having this niche of the cursed conlang and the extreme experiments, and I hope to see a whole lot more of that, and we can all sort of grow this community together.
Exactly. That's right. Let's make the 2020s the rise of conlanging for the people. Exactly.
All right. Well, if if you manage to get that video up
Yeah.
before this comes out, then I will put that in the show notes. So if I remember and it's out afterwards, then maybe I will like also go back and put the link in. But everybody, if you're not watching Agma Schwa's channel, if you're not watching then what are you doing? Go subscribe and go check out some cursed conlangs. But yeah, this is a cool thing. I am glad to have heard about you and talked with you. And to everyone out there listening, I'm going to say happy conlanging. Special thanks to my patrons on Patreon. If you go over there right now, you can get early access to episodes. You can get access to scripts for my solo episodes, and you can go get access to exclusive polls for Tongues and Runes. Thank you to Mintaka, Connor Stewart Rowe, Kenan Kigunda, Viren Patrick, Kay, Jesse, Sylvia Sotomayor, Alexis Hugelman, Langworm, Cassandra Woodhouse, Miles Ronkovich, Jake Penny, Artifexian, Nicholas Norblad, Eloy Variana Mentaleum, Sigourney Hunter, Anthony Dosimo, Jack Keynes, Rakagrunk, Grammar Antifa, Wuming Shuai. Conlangery's theme music is by Null Device. Conlangery is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 4.0 international license.